General dignity in Uganda, press freedom, right, Mungalya Uganda, ekiwandiiko ekikambwe namutayi lumye nga owulira bino ntagezi ebigambo bimusoka
He's a UN High Commissioner for Human Rights stationed in Geneva. But and this is what he said about, and I know today is going to be about press freedom and human dignity, pillars for peace in Uganda. So this is what he said. When we think of journalism values, we think of trust, truth, and integrity, with fearless individuals challenging power to document atrocities and corruption. Losing a journalist means losing a voice for the voiceless and a human rights defender. More than ever, we need independent, ethical, quality journalists who are crucial allies in human rights, and our best hope to promoting truth and trust is through their pursuit of facts, evidence, and accountability. I'm also going to read a poem. It's one poem divided into three, but just to give an overview of it is that the poem highlights the importance of journalism. Journalism doesn't mean only people who go and study journalism, but anybody who puts up a space, who blogs, who educates people, who informs anyone. So that's all journalism, whether it's on radio, on TV, anything. So the freedom of press and the power of words in defending truth and justice, emphasizing the role of journalists in uncovering hidden truths and providing light on crucial issues. The act of writing like a gentle touch signifies a journalist's dedication to documenting reality, highlighting the weight and impact of issues or words. Press freedom is crucial for promoting an informed society, dispelling darkness and ignorance, and exposing the truth behind powerful figures, highlighting the role of exposing secrecy, manipulation, and abuse of power. So these are all the function of, having a, press freedom. So I'm gonna read to you these poems and then I'll introduce teacher Katie. So the poem is by James Joyce, and these are extracts. There might be different versions of it, but this is what it is. And I'm gonna read it out to you. In the quiet corridors of truth, and this is the work of the journalist, in the quiet corridors of truth, where ink meets paper's tender skin, the press unfurls its wings, a senator for justice and yielding. Press freedom, a beacon ablaze, illuminates shadows cast by power. Ink spills like blood upon the paper, narrating tales of courage and defiance. Within its lines, whispers echo, speak truth to power unafraid. For words are currency of change and silence, the shackles of oppression. And so ink-stained fingers weave the fabric of resistance, thread by thread, reporting from the front lines of struggle, where stories bloom like wild flowers. The second one is about dignity anthem, and all still related to journalism. In the crowded space of hope, where hearts beat in unison, humanity stands tall, unyielding. Its anthem, human dignity. Equality of a refrain sung by all, notes carried on wings of empathy for every life, a sacred verse, every life a sacred verse. That's so important, that every life is very important, woven into the tapestry of existence. In the face of justice, it declares, see me not as other, but as kin. See me not as any other person, but see me as a sister, brother. We are all as kin, as family. For dignity knows no boundaries, and compassion bridges divides. And so hands clasped in unity, the march of dignity begins across deserts, mountains, and seas. Symphony of the resilience and grace. The last one, which is harmony, unfolds. Together, grace, freedom, and dignity compose a symphony of change. Their notes resonate through the work of the journalists, resonate through history, guiding movements towards the light. In newsrooms and protest squares, they dance entwined, their purpose clear, to dismantle why you do the journalism, why you do the spaces, to dismantle walls of ignorance and raise banners of justice high. So let the ink flow like voices rise, for where press freedom thrives and humanity stands unwavering, peace unravels its wings resplendent. And with this, I would like to introduce Teacher Katie, who is the financial officer of the American Leadership Academy or class. Go ahead, Teacher Katie, you're welcome.
Oh, Teacher Mimi, I cannot think of a better way to start this lecture. That was absolutely beautiful, and it is my goal to let the wings of peace, freedom, unity, and unconditional acceptance unfurl and be resplendent, which is a terrific word just in and of itself. All right, my lovely class, I'm going to share my screen with you and we will get started. Excellent. Okay, so today we are discussing, it's a little bit different than what was put on there. I know I do that every time, but as a living thing and as something that is moving and growing like a revolution, I try and give what is needed in the moment. If I were to ask, if I was asked to give a lesson on like organization right now, I would probably change the topic, because right now I feel that given circumstances, that unity and understanding of humanity might be more important to discuss. This is partly what I had planned on teaching before, but I felt that it was time to teach something a little bit so that we have a really good, true, and enriching understanding of what it means to be human, of what it means to unite, and have a real understanding of just how difficult that can be. So this lecture is called Unity Through Understanding Humanity: What Happens After We Succeed? Because it is my assertion that we will definitely succeed, so we better have a plan for when we do. Okay. What is human? Let me see if I can move this. Oh, my apologies. I am a little. Just for a minute. Now, my apologies. Always fun technical difficulties when we're doing on Zoom, isn't it? There we go. Okay. What is human? And I phrased it this way for a reason, and you'll see shortly. To be human, in the most sterile of definitions, is to have conscious thought. This means we have control over our environment to one degree or another. Oftentimes we have less control than we would like, but there's always a measure of control. There's always a little bit of choice. This means we have a soul or a moral compass that directs and guides us. To be human is to be thoughtful. As Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. This is the simplest and probably the most sterile definition of what it means to be a human. Now, being humans is not simple. These definitions do not quite encapsulate what it truly means to be a human. Humanity is not defined scientifically, or at least not to any satisfactory degree. To be human and truly feel the measure of your creation, you must first see the measure of another's. The real test of humanity is when we have someone who has deeply wronged us in our hands. Do we justifiably rain down the cruelty they bestowed on us? This is a question I'm not answering because it is a question I want you to think about. I want you to ponder, and I want the answer to be yours. I don't want it to be a class answer. I want it to be your real truth as a human. To be human, there are some things that make us unique. There are many creations on this planet that are absolutely incredible. Creations such as animals, plants, beautiful mountains, freezing weather, all are marvelous. But it is a unique and wonderful thing to be a human. Only humans hope. Only humans feel that desire, that idea that we may be in a position right now that is dark, scary, and hard. But we always can grasp onto that hope. Only humans see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this motivates and builds us. This is my assertion that this is what makes humanity most human. Being able to be in a place of true darkness and hope for a light at the end of the tunnel. Humanity also, one of our ways to define it, we possess moral judgment. No other creature on the planet can see right from wrong. There are a few instances and a few bits where you have witnessed maybe a dolphin do something that appears to be a choice of moral judgment, or an ape, or anything of that nature. And yes, these are interesting, but true moral judgment is truly human. To be able to decide for oneself what is right and what is wrong, and stand by it, creating that moral judgment, that is human. And then there is empathy. My favorite. Okay, I'm gonna say all of these are my favorites because the reality is I love humans. But empathy is my favorite to extend to others. It is something that is wholly human. Only one person can reach out to another, or even another creature, and feel for them. See what they are going through, see their struggle, and not only wish to help, but give their heart. Empathize in a real way. Feel for them. Be there with them. Take their hand and walk with them. This empathy is also one of the greatest tools humanity has, and I hope you use it often. Then there is cruelty. This is also wholly human. Humanity, while it is capable of great empathy, great hope, moral judgment, and other marvelous things, it is important that we understand we are capable of great cruelty. We are grateful of turning our backs on those who need us, and we are capable of inflicting great pain and sorrow. We need to know that even inside of me, I am capable of that. I will never, ever act on it because of who I have chosen to be using my moral judgment. But we are all capable of it, given the right circumstances. We must keep this in our minds so that we can empathize when it is needed most. Or justification. This is yet another very human thing. No other animal can justify the things that they do. No other thing in the entire universe can justify what it means to make a choice or to do a thing. Justification is solely human. Justification can be used in many ways. It is neither good nor evil morally. Let us use it for good. Let us justify the reason we smile at a stranger, not because we wish to gain something from them or trick them into liking you, but you smile at a stranger to spread warmth and love. Then there's joy. Joy may be observed in other creatures, but it is never felt the way it is felt in humans. We as humans are wholly a joyful species. We are meant to have joy. We are meant to spread it. We are meant to live a life that is filled with not only work and toil and fun and making moral judgments, but joy is integral to the human experience and a key point in success in revolution. Often things get so dark, so scary that the hope dwindles. It is joy that brings that hope back. Use joy so that we might continue to move forward our revolution. And finally, love. I love my dog, and my dog loves me, as far as a dog can, but real, feeling, justified, moral judgment, empathetic, and hopeful love is only human. It is ours to enjoy. It is ours to spread. And it is ours to continue to reach for every single day, even when hope might let us down. It is love, it is joy that will proceed to improve our endeavors. All right, next. So, what does it mean to be human? Well, there's an old Cherokee teaching. A Cherokee is a Native American tribe that has lived on our continent for a very long time. The wisdom that comes from our beautiful friends and neighbors who have relatives that have lived through these times is unmatched. And that will be shown in this parable. While I read this, I would like you to please write down, using your pencil and paper, please write down what you feel as you read it, what your goals are as you hear it, and think about how you want, what kind of human you want to be. Oh, dag nabbit. I am having a devil of a time today for some reason. Thank you for your patience and understanding. I'm just going to keep it here so it's easier to navigate. This is an old Cherokee teaching his grandson about life. And I'd like to add, it's a really good allegory for what it means to be human. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about this for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." As I read this, I've read it many times. It's different every time I read it. I learn something new. Every time I read this, it reminds me to only feed the good wolf. That is the wolf that will win inside of me. This means that I think about good things. This means that I assume good things. This means that my wolf that feeds off of joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, kindness, benevolence, that wolf is getting well fed every day. That means that the wolf inside of me, that is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, and greed, arrogance, and self-pity, that wolf is starving to death inside of me. My wolf, my good wolf, is fat and happy, and I will continue to only feed that one. I will continue to live my life in such a way that that wolf wins easily every time. This is a big part of what it means to be human, making the choice to feed that wolf. All right. From there, I wish to discuss Nelson Mandela's quote. We've discussed what it means to be human and why humanity can be so important. Nelson Mandela stated, "To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity." The reason I brought up all of these things about what it means to be human is we must understand what we are taking if we take human rights. We must understand the vast universes that people are, the love they are, the things they see, the way they see the world. We are taking that from them if we take their human rights. Those who are taking them from you and from those you love, they are taking your very humanity. Those things which we have just discussed, which make us human. I do not believe it is ever acceptable to take another person's humanity. I felt that this quote by Malcolm X was particularly poignant, especially with what we are speaking about today. He says, quote, "I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I am for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost. And as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole." This is the ideal that we must stand and rally behind. This is why it is so important for journalism to exist, for them to be authentic and truthful and spending their life in search of truth. But most importantly, when they think they find it and it's not the truth, admitting it and correcting. If you apologize, it only enhances your credibility. And I only say that because truth is subjective. Being a journalist is hard. How are you supposed to tell people truth and get it across when it's ever changing? It's next to impossible. But the fact that you're willing to try, that is the most valuable thing democracy, humanity, and freedom can have. How else can we make good decisions if we don't have good information? So let us be for truth. Okay, now that we understand what it means to be human, at least in a measure, dictators and despots govern, and despots, governors, and generals, they all too often resort to brute force to prevent scenarios that exist only in their own heads, on the assumption that the average Joe is ruled by self-interest, just like them. This may seem like it's a little out of left field considering what we were talking about, but this is what's happening. We have a dictator who is governing and with brute force to prevent scenarios that don't even exist. And because of this, he is taking humanity he's taking humanity because of scenarios that don't exist. This is the hallmark of most dictators. This is why they are so dangerous. Our humanity is in the hands of people who imagine things and then act on it. It's important that you understand what is going on so that you can better react to those who may follow these people. All right, let us talk quickly about what a human right is and why it is so important, and why when they are taken, our humanity is taken as well. Human rights defined. Human rights are norms that aspire to protect all people everywhere from severe political, legal, and social abuse. These include education, assembly, association, movement, religion, speech, information, press, and thought. I'll speak briefly on each of these. Education as a human right is vital. A people cannot improve their circumstances or even recognize that they are in poor circumstances unless they are educated. This is the first course of action to relieving or toppling a dictator. Education. Make sure they are aware. Make sure that they know that life doesn't have to be the way it has always been. Things can change, and they deserve to change. Freedom of assembly. This means that we have the right to assemble together and discuss these things. We are exercising that human right today. We are assembling together and we are discussing things that are important and might cause problems for people in power. But we have that freedom and we will use it. That is our human right. Association. You may associate with whoever you wish. This means you cannot be prosecuted or infringed on if you maybe have a brother who commits crimes. You may still associate with him. You love him. This is a human right. Freedom of movement. Again, something we are exercising today. Our human right to the freedom to have a movement. Let us continue to exercise it. Freedom of religion. This, moreover, means the freedom to be able to believe whatever it is that you want, that speaks to you, that is your truth, your harmony, and who you are. This must be given to everyone. And that means freedom to be any religion you'd like, or none at all. We cannot judge a person by their religion. It is their human right to exercise that religion or lack thereof. Freedom of speech. This is another one that is a joy to be being utilized today. As we speak, we have the right to say those things that are plain and precious. We have the right to say things that might detract from those who wish to be in power. That is our human right. We have the right to information. We have the right to be able to research and find truth for ourselves. We have the right to free press. This is vital and hopefully is understood how important it is. As I have discussed already, freedom of thought. This is difficult in this day and age because thoughts are not static. Thoughts can be moved. They can be manipulated. They can be changed by information that is given to them over and over again. Even when those thoughts are being manipulated, those people who are having them have the right to them. And that brings us back to education. Those who are being manipulated, once educated, often change their thoughts. And this is the goal. So these are our human rights. And you can see that taking these would absolutely have an effect on the humanity of a person. If we lost the right to be educated, our humanity would suffer If we lost our press, our beloved free press, our humanity would suffer. If we take any of these, it diminishes us as humans. Now, with that being said, everyone is deserving of these rights, even if we don't agree with them, even if we see them as evil. They deserve, because they are human, these rights. And this is a little bit of what we are going to be discussing now. As we pull forward, as we pull together and become the united front to topple a dictator, what do we do next? What do we do? Because we will succeed. We will. And when we do, we must have a plan of action. I have a few quotes here that I want you to really think about, even write them down, because these are the warnings for what we were trying to accomplish. Because it's just as easy for me to become a dictator as it is if I don't follow these rules, if I don't keep myself in check, if I ignore the realities. And I will not be a dictator. I will not put people in a position that is reducing them as humans. So I am aware of these things, and I would be neglectful if I didn't make sure you were. This is a quote from Alexander I. Slosensky. I'm terrible with Norwegian names. Human rights are a fine thing, but how can we make ourselves sure that our rights do not expand on the expanses of the rights of others? A society with unlimited rights is incapable of standing to adversity. If we do not wish to be ruled by a coercive authority, then each of us must rein himself in. A stable society is achieved not by balancing opposing forces, but by conscious self-limitation, by the principle that we are always duty-bound to defer to our sense of moral justice. It is often preached that balancing a society is how we achieve stability, and that is not true. It makes sense, that should be true, but it's not. Society remains stable and balanced through individual choices to be bound and defer to a sense of justice. Always remember that. This is why a constitution is so vital. This is why the US is successful. Hopefully continues to be so. But because we created a constitution and did not change it. Well, we changed it a little. We have some amendments, but it's very difficult to change. These are the things that create a stable government. Making a choice of what we want for our country, deciding it through democracy and through a vote, and then sticking to it. Keeping that bound deferral to a sense of moral justice in our hearts and in our minds. As we move forward, building a new Uganda, or that's not true. Taking back the Uganda that we love and creating it again, letting it be what it is. That's better. Letting it be what it is. As we do that, we must be prepared for what happens next. So, with that little warning, this is also a warning about democracy, which is funny because I teach democracy. I love democracy. It's the best form of government we have, but it doesn't mean it's perfect. And it is understanding those things that is the most vital part of this. This is another quote by Terry Goodkind from the book Naked Empire. This is, he's a Russian author. This is from a Russian book. He says, people use democracy as a free-floating abstraction, disconnected from reality. Democracy in and of itself is not necessarily good. Gang rape, after all, is a democracy in action. Democracy is not a synonym for justice or for freedom. Democracy is not a sacred right sanctifying mob rule. Democracy is a principle that is subordinate to the inalienable rights of an individual. This is what I'm trying to get across with these quotes, which are a criticism of things I hold dear. But they are true too. Democracy, if we believe it is a sacred right, then we sanctify mob rule. It creates a society where if the most people agree to something, then those who don't agree don't have a voice. This is the biggest criticism of democracy. And it is why it is so important for us to be bound by that justice that we just discussed. It's why we must be bound by the humanity of one. It doesn't necessarily mean that those people will be ignored if those who are ruling the democracy continue to be bound by the things we have recently discussed. So as you be elevated to those positions of authority, those positions of power, do not forget the one who may disagree. Do not vilify or separate that person. That person who disagrees has all those same human rights. That person who disagrees is just as valuable as the people who agree. And while we cannot spend all of our time trying to satiate the few, we must never forget them. Never forget the few. Keep them as a chicken, a mama hen, puts her wings around her little babies. So are those other people who may disagree. Okay, we are about to have a moment of silence. I will turn the time over to Dorcas in a moment, and then we will continue our lecture. Our next slide is an effort to help us defend against our own pride and our own cruelty that is inside of us and must be recognized. Dorcas, if you wouldn't mind.
I was muted. Thank you so much, sister teacher Katie. Yes, we are going to have a moment of silence. I know.
As I was talking, as I was saying, we've discussed what it means to be human. I think, therefore, I am. We have discussed the much more complicated version, which is much easier to conflate into something abstract. And we have talked about the human rights that, if taken, are take away humanity, which the goal as a revolutionary is to elevate humanity. It is to increase the amount of humanity in the world. It is to build people, build up, never destroying. And that looks weird sometimes because sometimes things must be destroyed to build them back up. But as long as we continue to keep our eye on the ball, that we do not destroy humanity, we will continue to move forward in a positive way. All right, so what is our defense against acting against humanity, or acting against human rights, or acting against taking away the humanity of others? Let the first act, this is from Mahatma Gandhi. There's a couple of these quotes in here today. He just seemed to really resonate with me as I created this lecture. So, let the first act of every morning be to make the following resolve for the day. I shall not fear anyone on earth. I shall fear only God. I shall not bear ill will towards anyone. I shall not submit to injustice from anyone. I shall conquer untruth by truth. And in resisting untruth, I shall put up with all suffering. This is what Mahatma Gandhi would say to himself every day. And he he exemplified these traits. And we'll talk briefly about each. First, I shall not fear anyone on earth. I love this statement, as I have been teaching my children that fear is no reason to do anything. Working from a place of fear makes a human irrational. It makes a person willing to give up their freedoms. As I believe it was Jefferson said, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt said that, I want to get it right. A person who is willing to give up a measure of their freedom for security deserves neither. For safety, there it is. Okay, a person willing to give up freedom for security deserves neither. Security and freedom go hand in hand. If we start giving up our freedoms so that we can feel more secure, we are just doing what our fears want us to do. We are listening only to the voices in our heads that are afraid of what's coming next. Now, to be clear, fear is important. Fear is your body telling you that something's not right. Listen, but do not make decisions based on fear. Listen, understand what the fear is telling you. Think about it, take a moment, and make a decision on what the fear is telling you, not the fear itself. Fear is not a guiding light of truth. Fear is just a reaction. The second thing, I shall fear only God. This is a wonderful and easy way to keep your mind focused on not allowing any man on earth to create fear inside of you. If you only fear your God, then you have nothing to fear on this planet. Because even if the worst should happen, if you have been living the way that your God expects you to live, you have nothing to fear. Even an atheist has nothing to fear if they focus their minds on fearing the universe or fearing their idea of what perfection should be. Just because they don't believe in God does not mean that this is not a poignant thing. Third, I shall not bear ill towards anyone. This is hard because people do horrible things. People are capable of immense cruelty. But I shall never wish ill on others. This doesn't mean we ignore justice. Justice is a must. When somebody does something to us, there needs to be a form of justice. There must be justice. But do not revel in it. Do not revel in somebody's misfortune. Do not want illness towards anyone. Part of being human is lifting everyone, not just the people we agree with. We cannot wish death upon anyone, even though sometimes it's really hard. But the more we think about hurting another person, the less time we're thinking about elevating our cause. Don't get bogged down in what people are doing to you and start radiating what you are doing to people. This relates directly to the press. If we are writing our opinions and they are full of anger, you are touching other people's hearts. You are creating a world where they are reading your ill will towards others and then internalizing it because we trust you. This is the scary thing. You have a lot of power as somebody in the press. Make sure that you approach everything in a way that does not wish ill on anyone, but elevates. Instead of saying, this person did this, they are an evil person. Say, this person survived a horrible thing, and we are going to elevate and honor the person that the thing happened to, ignoring the bad person. Let me illustrate a little bit. That's a little convoluted. Imagine you see a person beating a homeless person. This will make you angry, and justifiably, and you should feel it. And once it is over, once you have gone and you have helped, do you tell the world how evil that person is? Or do you tell the world how marvelous the survivor is? These are the decisions in press you must make. Do you glorify and dramatize the person who did the wrong thing? Do you make them a household name, immortalizing them through words? Or do you immortalize the fact that people came running to help? Do you interview the people who helped? Do you search for stories about people who feed the homeless, who shelter the homeless? Do you take that moment and you turn it into something positive? Do you help that man? Do you show that there are people who are helping him with his injuries? Do you come back a week later so that we can see how he's doing? Ignoring completely the act of senseless violence and cruelty, we can't do, and there must be justice. But if we are to constantly be bombarding ourselves with that kind of ill thinking and negativity, we just become people who are addicted to drama, and we're not helping anyone. Do not wish ill on anyone. Do not elevate those who inflict it. They don't deserve a platform. Okay, that one kind of got a little in depth there. Then there is, I shall not submit to injustice from anyone. This is a hard row to hoe. This is a difficult thing to do because sometimes we live in a world where injustice is done every day to us, inflicted on us, and there's nothing we can do about it. But that doesn't mean we can't take steps and make sure that we do not just submit. We rally, we fight, we speak up. Now our lives are important. Do not put yourself at risk. You are very valuable the way that you are in the space that you are. But do not stay silent. If we submit to injustice, then we are inviting more injustice. If we say it's okay that this little bit was taken from us because it's just a little bit, well, next time this little bit's going to be taken, and then this little bit's going to be taken, and then this little bit's going to be taken, and finally all of our freedoms and rights are gone. But we must also pick our battles. Pick battles we can win. Pick battles that we know that those who are following us can do, and then not be put in harm's way. Always remember that we have tremendous power. Don't ever put those who follow you in harm's way if you can help it. That being said, sometimes harm finds us, and that is not on us, that is on the people inflicting it. But we always do our best, because those people who follow us, we must love. And we do love. So do not submit to injustice, but pick your battles. Pick battles you can win. Battles that show that you are here and you are loud and you can and do make changes and differences. All right, and finally, the Mahatma says, I shall conquer untruth by truth, and in resisting untruth, I shall put up with all suffering. Most of us won't be asked to do what the Mahatma did. Most of us will not have to suffer so much. At least not in the way he did. Our suffering comes from staying quiet when we want to scream. Our suffering comes when we see people that we love, or just people being hurt by somebody who is imagining all these things and then acting on them. This is our suffering. And we will endure it because it's more important every day to speak truth to power than it is for me to be comfortable. Comfort is lovely, but it is not worth the sacrifice that comes from staying silent when untruth is abounding. As journalists, you must sacrifice your comfort for truth. You must sacrifice everything for truth. Next slide. And again, the Mahatma, because sometimes he just works. Again, Gandhi says, freedom is not worth having if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes. As always, my lovely friends, I wish to address the grace that is needed for leaders like us. We all make mistakes. And freedom needs to have room to make those mistakes. Once we start thinking that our leadership must be perfect, we have elevated them from a human being to something else. We can't have that. Humans make mistakes all the time. Make big ones, make little ones. Even those who we see and we think, hey, there's no way they've done anything terrible. There's no way they make a poor choice. And I will follow them to the ends of the earth. You cannot believe that of a person. That is too much. And that takes your humanity away. We are all just humans doing our best, and we make mistakes. Now with that, I want you to think of the people who follow the dictator, the people who go to movements, the people who stand up for him, the people who seem to be working against their own best interest. These aren't our enemies. These are people who made a mistake, and a big one. And they are going to feel shame, and they are going to feel heartache and suffering. We don't need to add on to it. Once we win, we don't need to add on to it. Gather those like a hen gathers her chicks. Gather them and let them know there's a place for them in Uganda with you. Gather them and let them know that their voice matters. And gather them and let them see what the reality of it is. Show them the truths of what is really happening, and they will understand. Humans do that. When humans are educated, they change their minds. But it must be proper, loving, kind, and not shameful education. Nobody ever changed their mind through shame. Nobody ever became somebody else because a person yelled at them the truth. Being a leader is hard. Loving those who hate you is hard, but it's worth it. Because once we get to that other side, that beautiful other side, there's going to be collateral damage. And it's damage we must be prepared to deal with when it happens. And the first step to dealing with it is having a free and truth-driven press. This must be. So, once we have gathered our beautiful little chicks, and they are beautiful, they're deceived, they're victims, but they are beautiful, and they are Ugandans. They are part of us. Unity can only happen if we can forgive. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it enlarges the future. We must forgive those who have hurt us, because fighting fire with fire just gives you a whole lot of fire. We don't need more fire. There's plenty. Let's fight fire with water. Let's fight fire with sand. Let's fight fire with forgiveness. Forgiveness is the only path to unity. That does not discount justice, and it does not discount what happened. It doesn't diminish it. It doesn't take any of it away, but forgiveness enlarges the future. It makes a future for everyone, not just the people who agree with you, which is the goal of servant leadership and the goal of a proper democracy. Otherwise, we just become the next totalitarian. We just become the next dictator. And things might get better for a few years, 20 years, but then they just devolve back into what they are today. Unless we can have that forgiveness and that hope for a united country. Okay, well, that is the end of my slideshow and my lecture. So if you would like, I know it's a little bit early. I'd love to take some questions, if there are any out there. So Dorcas, if you wouldn't mind facilitating that, I would be very appreciative.
Speaking again in a muted mic. Thank you so much, Teacher Katie, for that wonderful lecture. Thank you so much. Teacher Mimi, please do pick up and come in to speak to us before we take a hand or two. Thank you.
Abyebyo no zambiuli bikwata ku ddembe ly'obuntu abantu abatulugunyizibwa abatusulaba ebisago lino kumibwa nnyo butiribiri ate nate genda Museveni ye ali mu kulifeebya ali mu kulisaanyaawo ali mu kulikolako fujjo awo nno guba musango gwa naggomola n'olwekyo yongera essaala yongera osabe kubanga we tuli woweewo Mukama atunatera okuddamu essaala zaffe ate nga naffe tulina okumanya eddembe lyaffe tulina okumanya biki ebitukwatako mu ssemateeka era nitubigoberera nokulaba nga tujja ku gavumenti ya Nakyembadde General Kaguta Museveni tusobola okweyagalira mu nsi yaffe abaana baffe bagisange abazzukulu n'abazzukulu bagisange nabe banyumire mu mirembe nga tulivinga ne harmony ffenna ne bannaffe ababa bali mu ggwanga. Baagala nnyo mwenna Omukama Katonda gwe nsaba bakuume tujja kuba tuddamu bannange mweraba.